Hi, everyone, and welcome to Talking Inclusivity with the Hive. And today, our guest is Olivia Murphy. And Olivia has been one of the Hive's disability advocates. She has taught classes for the Hive. She's also worked with our social media platform. So we are just so excited to have Olivia on for our podcast. Welcome, Olivia.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So, Olivia, we just talked about how I talk a lot and we don't get things done quickly. And so we're going to just jump right in because you're
Okay.
on time constraints as well. So, first, just tell us a little bit about who you are and just to give our audience a little bit of a background.
Okay. So I'm Olivia. I have cerebral palsy and autism. I went to school for communications and public relations, and then I got my master's in journalism and design. I also have my own podcast, and I'm a freelance writer as well. And I'm working on writing a children's book right now.
Amazing. I didn't know about the children's book. I seen on your Facebook that there was like a call for illustrators with disabilities who were interested in helping with illustrate. Was that for your book?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk more about that. So you mentioned the education, so let's jump into that first. Given your experiences in digital journalism and design at USF, it was USF, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. What was the most significant accessibility challenges that you faced in your higher education?
Actually, ironically, my master's was like I didn't face any accessibility barriers except for one professor that would not give me my accommodations, but that's a whole other it's a whole other story. But like undergrad, I feel like was a little bit more challenging because it was in person. Like there's stuff that I need as accommodations for in person that I don't need online. But actually, when like school wound up online for the remainder of when I'm in school, I actually really thrived. It was actually a lot easier doing school online than in person.
So do you feel like some of that too was like even the learning curve or getting things situated coming from high school to like college? Were there things that you had to learn or connections that you had to make in order to ensure that you had the accessibility measures that you needed?
I mean, like anyone, like when you go to college, and if you have a disability, you have to like know where the resources are and who the people in the office are that can help you and get to know your caseworker and stuff like that. But like I actually my senior year of high school, I wound up doing college classes at a local college. So like I didn't have a traditional senior year of high school. So like I had an extra year of college basically, like kind of because I started taking classes when I was in high school. And I think that really helped. I was like, it was not really dual enrollment, but like a program for people with disabilities to take college classes during high school.
Wow. So one, I don't think I've heard of that. So do you remember the name of that program?
It was called College Steps. I'm not sure if Florida has any of them because I'm from Massachusetts.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know that. So you took your high school courses in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
I
that would
moved
be
here
definitely
for college.
okay. So that would definitely be something interesting to check to see if Florida has an equivalent of that. I'll have to look as we're prepping this podcast. Um, so, and you're saying online classes have been much easier for you, and you think that's why the master's was so much easier as well.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that I would need accommodations for was already kind of built into the course. Um, like I could just, um, like there was no lectures to have to like record because you're doing it at your own pace.
Mm.
There's no notes that I actually really have to take unless I want to just like take notes from like the clips or the videos that the professor like posts. It's like when they post the lecture because they were like pre-recorded, and then you could go back. You don't necessarily like because I have a problem like in the moment. I can't remember things after, so you can go back and then remember what someone said in like at some point during the lecture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically, it was like on demand to where you could review how often you needed to get the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Um, so after you graduated from college, I know that that transition from again, the university to a regular job, the workforce is very daunting for anybody, but especially for individuals with disabilities. Um, did you face any obstacles in like making that transition from college to the workforce?
100%, and I'm still facing them now. Which kind of is crazy because I've been out of my master's program for like 2 years at this point, and I just freelance and I do like some things on the side. I don't have a full time like getting a full time job. Period. Like regardless of if it's in my field or not, has been incredibly hard. Anytime, like I think I've applied to like probably over 100 jobs at some point. Um, and a lot of times I don't even hear back. And sometimes I wonder if it's because like I have 90% of my work is or work experience has been disability focused, and I think it might scare some employers away or something.
So, wow. Because I mean, obviously, you are a well-educated individual coming out of school, and so, um, what do you think the barriers are?
I think um, a lot of times it's not even like a traditional barrier. It's just that like um, sometimes like you'll have a job posting and it will say like a lot of times why I don't um apply for jobs in person is because part of the job descriptions will usually like say, oh, you must lift like I don't know 50 pounds or something, or 30 pounds, or lift a certain amount of weight, be able to lift a certain amount of weight, or be able to um drive, and I don't drive, so like I don't have a valid driver's license, and sometimes applications will ask you if you have a valid driver's license and stuff like that, which is why it's much easier to work from home if it's possible.
And also, it's probably why many people with individuals with disabilities go the entrepreneur route, right? Because then you're able to um, create the spaces, create the income that you need without all of those obstacles, you know, um, with employers. But also, we have to make a difference in that. Like yes, there's a lot of jobs that require driving and lifting, but there's a lot of jobs that don't. And so, um, you know, reducing the amount of obstacles in the workplace. I think that that's all of our responsibility, and obviously we are missing out on qualified individuals to do these jobs. I mean, sometimes we hear all this stuff about shortages of good employees, or shortages of people who are qualified, and and then we have qualified individuals who are not even able to get their foot in the door. Um, so obviously, I just think that there's some hiring practices and things we need to look at as a society.
Which is why usually I like looking, when I'm looking for a job, like I'll specifically seek out ones that say, like they have DEI policies. Like they are because they're more likely to hire like not only women but women with disabilities or any other like minority.
Absolutely. And even just looking at the current she's probably going to have to edit some of this because I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. But even looking at the current policies that are being initiated right now, with this current administration, when it comes to DEI, you're saying that typically you look for spaces that are going to accommodate DEI. And then we have this emergence of reducing DEI. How do you feel like that's going to affect individuals with disabilities' ability to land the jobs that they need and are qualified for?
Okay, so you're gonna have to edit some of this because I have to think for a second.
No, go ahead.
And
because I think it's very relevant right now. You brought it up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but
I wasn't gonna either. And then I was like, but you're asking about like the way I search for jobs or what it's really like, and I was like, I guess I do have to kind of bring it up to an extent. And I think that with all these rollbacks, I don't think people realize that a lot of people that are, hired, that have disabilities or are women or are all of those things, are like so highly qualified, but just because there's a DEI policy does not mean that is the reason someone is hired. I think there's a misconception that like DEI just means that like, oh, that means they're just hiring people because they're women, because they're disabled, because they're this, because they're that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
100%. Absolutely. Like there is a disconnect in the reality of what DEI is. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who don't even know the large group of people that benefit from DEI. And again, you cannot apply for a job unless you're already qualified. And as you've said, oftentimes individuals with disabilities are more than qualified for the positions. And as are a lot of the other groups that are trying to get jobs. The whole purpose of DEI is to ensure that if you are qualified, that your disability will not be held against you, and that the workplace will make accommodations, making sure that the doors are wide enough, making sure that the aisles are wide enough for a wheelchair to go down, making sure that you have a place to work that is accommodating you.
Making sure you're not penalized just because you may have to work from home one day.
Right.
Like a lot of times now there's like hybrid jobs, having that option, because a lot of people who are disabled may just need a day where they can physically work, but they just can't work in the office. They can't get in for some reason.
Right. well, and the other thing is these accommodations benefit everyone. For example, if there's a woman who is pregnant and she's in her last trimester and she's struggling, but she can still they can still make accommodations maybe for her to work from home and she's still being able to be productive, or someone who has a surgery and they're unable to utilize their, unable to walk into work all the time, or they, whatever, there's pain
Yeah.
issues or whatever it is. Those accommodations are beneficial for all employees, not just individuals with disabilities. And it also allows people to maintain and hold on to really good talent. So yes, I agree. There's this crazy disconnect on people's understanding of what DEI is. Um, but but yes, so I am glad actually that it got brought up. And you're right. Like, you know, it is important to have employers who um, are seeking to create inclusive hiring practices, and that all that means is making sure that the qualified individuals have the things that they need in their job to ensure that they can work well and that they can do well for the company.
That
Um,
is also why sometimes I look for like other companies ran by disabled people,
yes, very good,
which there
absolutely.
are very few. They're not like major ones. Like aren't really out there, but there are a few, and like I'll apply to those nonprofits and stuff. But yeah, in that way, then they really do understand all that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, we had uh, a guest on last month, and she talked about she had a major injury and she has cerebral palsy as well, and was normally independent at home on her own, had a major injury, and was literally unable to move at all. And she didn't have a wheelchair or anything like that that was, ready and prepared and available to her, and almost lost her job, almost lost her home, because losing your job means losing your income. And just how, but she happened to work for an employer who um, was very goal oriented when it comes to um, accessibility and ensuring that she had the modifications she needed, and it saved her home, it saved her job because that employer was so open minded. um, so yeah, it's critical, and it's a really important conversation. So circling back around, though, at this point you've decided that, well, you've just chosen, because it's been so hard to find um, work opportunities to freelance and to write on the side and to do your podcast.
Yeah. Eventually, I hope that my podcast gets to the point where it's monetized, and maybe when my book's out, like I'll make some money with that. But like, I'm not really, and I do like work for my mom a little bit. She has a private practice. She's a therapist, so I do that stuff. But like, I'm not really actively. I mean, I'm still looking, but um, I'm not really actively trying to um get a 9 to 5.
So let's talk a little bit about your digital journaling. So as a digital journalist, how do you think that the media can better represent individuals with disabilities? And what role do you see yourself potentially playing in shifting the stereotypes?
So I think I've already like kind of shifted the stereotypes through like my podcast, but also when I was writing for other companies and stuff, I was um, focused on the like intersections between disability and pop culture. So a lot of media representation, um, and like just like for my master's degree, I actually did a separate podcast series, breaking down the misconceptions and the misrepresentation of disabled people in the media. And so I feel like I kind of shifted the narrative there. I want to continue shifting the narrative even through the books I write, through like basically through anything I do, because like a lot of that work is focused in the um like overlap between journalism and pop culture and the misrepresentation of disabled people.
And another platform that you're utilizing is, again, your podcast, My Best Disabled Life. Did I say it right?
Living my best disabled.
Living my best disabled life. And so I know you talked a little bit about it, but tell us like what inspired you to create it.
Okay, so I wanted to get into like advocacy, but I didn't want to do it in like a way that everyone does it. I didn't want to like be the people, like I didn't want to have to do like protesting or like stuff like that, you know? I wanted to find a way that I could do it from the comfort of my own home or really wherever I'm recording my podcast. And the whole goal is like, so to sum it up, kind of, there's 3 words that I use that are like on the back of, like on my website and the back of the merch that I have. It's celebrate, educate, celebrate, and advocate. I said it in the wrong order, but so I want to celebrate the disability community, I want to advocate for the disability community, and I want to educate not only other disabled people, but the rest of the world about disability.
So good. My next question was, what key messages do you hope to convey to your listeners? But I think that you just answered that. And do you want to say anything else though about your message?
I would say that like no matter who's listening, whether it's a disabled person or it's someone who knows disabled people, I just want people to know that like your disability doesn't necessarily have to hold you back from like achieving your dreams or achieving goals that you have, no matter how big or how small they are.
That's good. Have you noticed that you've been able to start building and creating community with with your podcast? Do you see a growth in a community?
100%. And I've actually, a lot of the people I've had on my podcast have later like become my friends. So I have like friends all over the world.
What role has technology and assistive tools played in your education and as well as like your podcast? And what advances do you believe are crucial for like leveling the field for individuals with disabilities?
Well, I think AI is actually a big help with that stuff, because I don't even think people realize how helpful AI can be for like disabled people, and what is actually considered AI. People don't even realize, oh, that's considered AI. But like, I would not have gotten through any of my degrees or even high school without like speech to text or Grammarly. Or well, Grammarly didn't exist when I was in high school, but I meant like in college. Yeah, in college I really started using it. But things that just like help when you're writing and you're like, you don't necessarily know how to expand on an idea, but you know you have that idea in your head.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's funny that you said that because I have a 19-year-old in college, and he literally was just telling me last week that Grammarly was AI, and I'm like, what? That's not AI. That's just like an editing tool. What are you talking about?
It technically is, because if you press, like, if you like highlight the stuff, it'll say how to improve this, and then you just like actually it'll give you ideas on how to improve it. You can make it sound a certain way, and like, you know, more direct or more confident or professional stuff.
Yeah. He showed me that, and I'm like, I would have never thought that this was considered AI, but yeah, so you're right. Um, and there's probably many more forms of AI that are helpful that we don't again realize that they're actually AI. Um, what does resilience mean to you in the context of living with cerebral palsy? Like, what does it mean to be resilient?
It I would say that it means to never give up, and if I want to get something done, um but it's like harder, I just have to find like a different way to get that done. There's always like a way to modify or adapt anything. Anything in life, really.
That's so good. And I think too that having, I just think as an individual in the workforce, having the ability to look at something and think outside the box and know how to modify it, and um, again, that is talent that we want in our workplace, right? That's what creates the new initiatives and the new ways that we do things, is just by being able to think out of the box like that. And I
I
think that
think
individual
disabled people as a whole are like even more resourceful than able-bodied people, because we actually like have to be in a way.
Absolutely. That's what I was getting to, 100%. And again, another reason why um, having individuals with disabilities in the workforce, especially in spaces where there's innovation and creativity, and again, thinking outside the box. I totally agree. And being able to utilize those skills and being known for them, I think is important. And there's a lot of workplace spaces that are missing out because um, we are so in the box. I
Yeah.
guess is the way I'm going to say it. Um, what are some common misconceptions about disability that you've encountered? And you didn't you mentioned that you're talking on your podcast about misconceptions, but what are some of the most common ones in your daily life that you've encountered?
Um First of all, in what context? In like, um, in life in general? Are you saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Or what comes to mind when I say when I even say that? Like what comes to
Okay. So
mind?
the first thing is that, like, ironically, some people think because I'm in a chair, I can't like get up and walk and be ambulatory, and like um and in the same realm, I've had like people be confused when one day I walk in somewhere and one day I wheel, and they think that, oh, I must be feeling better or something.
So how do you handle those scenarios?
Um, Sometimes I'm just like, oh well, actually I can walk and I can use a chair. Just sometimes it's easier for certain places I go or whatever. Sometimes if I have time, I'll just explain it, but otherwise I'll just like, depending on how ignorant the comment and how it was actually said. Sometimes I'll ignore it, and sometimes I'll actually say something.
So I feel like this is something that comes up because I don't think that we are really good culturally at all coming to the table together about learning about disability, about learning about whatever things that people are living through, right? And so, and because of that, um, quote unquote able-bodied individuals will be intimidated, or they won't speak because they're afraid to say the wrong thing, right? And so I really like in these podcasts giving opportunities for us to learn, for everybody to learn, right? And so in the scenario that you just talked about, how would you like someone to approach that? Like, let's say that there's somebody in your community that, or your grocery store that you go to all the time, that sees you, and they've seen you mostly just in your wheelchair, and then one day they see you walking, right? Like, what would be um a way to start a conversation and answer about that curiosity of like, wow, like I've never seen her walking in her with a walker before.
I would say just not in don't say something like having to do with, oh, you looks like you're feeling better, or like you're doing better today, because I think people forget or don't know that a lot of disabilities are dynamic. So like one day maybe easier to walk, and then the other day it might be like, oh, I'm going somewhere where I need to use the chair most of the way because of, let's say, the distance. And like, I guess I would just say maybe I don't even know how I would want someone to ask that question. I'd rather them, this sounds weird, but I'd rather them like not. Like, it just feels like a depends on where you are. I guess read the room and then ask. Like, if you're, I don't know how to explain it.
Do you feel like it's invasive, that question?
It is invasive, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't answer the question at all. It just depends on how you're asking it, I guess. But I don't even know how I would say to ask it, because inherently it feels like invasive. I don't know if that's making any sense.
Is some of the issue not wanting people to make assumptions about your, like, what you can and can't do on a daily basis?
Yeah, I guess it's that, and it's also not understand. I guess some people don't understand that just because someone has one disability and another person has the same disability doesn't mean it's the same for that person. For each person, it's different for each person. And so like instead of saying like, oh, like looks like you're feeling better today or whatever, maybe just don't even like just ask me how I am in general. I don't know. Like, it doesn't you don't have to mention that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So just asking how you're feeling and allowing
how I am in general. I don't know.
Right.
How have you been? Like, it's something generic. I don't know.
Yes. Or I feel like the key is one of the things, just however you would talk to somebody else that you just walked up to, whether they were using a walker or a wheelchair or just walking in, but just having normal conversation without bringing.
I mean, attention. You could be like, but then there's also a thing about like we don't we don't owe anyone our medical history too. So don't walk up to someone and ask them like what do you have or something, or like why do you like. I guess it also depends if it's a kid or it's an adult. If it's a kid, I was just like explain it, oh, I use this because it helps me walk or whatever. Whereas if it's an adult, it's like I feel less likely. I feel like I'm less likely to give like a decent answer and get annoyed when it's an adult. When an adult could just, I don't know. This sounds kind of weird, but like Google it, or like not Google it, but look. I'll give you like a little bit of what my disability is or why I use it, but I don't need to tell you what I have and like a long, elaborate thing about how it affects me. Because honestly, when you're out of the store, you don't want to just talk to a random person about that.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like you don't owe anybody anything. You can, um but it does make sense to, obviously if it's a kid and they're curious and so I understand what you mean too about the tone that the person is using, how they're asking the question. Um,
My problem with like those experiences is that a lot of times it was like a cutesy little weird like little kid voice thing. Yeah. Like talking to a little kid kind of thing.
Right.
You could just say it. You could just say the same thing in a different tone and it wouldn't irritate someone as much.
Absolutely. Speaking to you like you're the adult that you are and asking the question.
I don't know, something like, how have you been lately? I see you're using your chair today, and just like use it as an open. Just say like, I see you're using your chair today, or I see you're using your crutches today. Oh, and then I'll just answer, oh, it was a short distance, or oh, it was a longer distance to where I was going. You don't necessarily have to add the feeling better aspect.
Right. Because, and just tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, again, you're creating assumptions. You're creating your own ideas on what's going on with that person instead of just saying, I mean, I like what you just said. How are you doing? I see that you're using your walker today, and letting the person add or not, however they want to.
Yeah, if they don't want to, they just want to answer the thing and just, move on. But if they, oh, it was easier, it was more accessible this way or something, that's like how I would how I would answer it if someone respectfully made a comment like that, I guess.
Looking into your future and your big dreams and goals, what are your aspirations? Like, first of all, what's your vision for yourself? Like in 5 years, where do you want to see yourself?
Oh God.
I didn't give you that pre-question, so you can take your time in answering that.
Oh my. Okay. So
like if you didn't have any obstacles.
What am I, like 31? And so yeah. So I'm in my 30s by then. Okay. I like, what type of aspirations, just in general?
Yeah. Like, where would you like to see yourself?
Okay. In the future. I would love to be like, this is so probably not going to happen, but I would love to be a best-selling author.
Why can that not happen?
Because I don't know. I just feel like that's very far-fetched. But
I feel like that's imposter syndrome. Like, let's get rid of that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Mm-hmm. That's imposter syndrome. I'm going to be.
100%. Let's have some visuals of that. Let's have a dream and a vision board of that. Like I want to see it like listed all over in your room. Like yes.
So, and I maybe want to be doing some, social media for like a big company or marketing firm or something. Maybe that involves the occasional traveling places.
That sounds lovely.
Maybe I don't know. 5 years. I don't know. Married. At least engaged. I don't know. I'm not even in a relationship. So, yeah, just everything aligning, I guess. Career, everything else. My hypothetical love life. um, maybe I'll have like get my own house or something. That's more in 10 years, but in this market.
Yeah. We can add it.
But yeah, just everything falling into place, kind of.
Yeah, I love that. So I didn't ask this either, but I'm curious, and I know that I was stalking your Facebook earlier, and I seen that you were taking classes at like, is it called Rockettes? Is that what they're called?
Oh. Taking classes?
Yeah, I thought I seen you take like an online where there were some people live and then some people were like online doing like a info course. It was like dancing. Um, I feel like it was called Rockettes or something like
Oh,
that.
Rolettes?
Rolettes. Yes. There we go. So what are your hobbies? Like what do you do for fun?
So that specifically is like a once a year conference. But they had it online for like two years because of the COVID. So but I went in person a few times. It's a um convention for women in wheelchairs. But I do take dance classes from one of the like part-time members of that dance team. I take them online like every week or every other week. She was actually on So You Think You Can Dance.
Wow.
The reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been taking classes from her for like about over a year and a half. They've all been online. She runs her own online dance studio. She does some in person and some classes online. I just do it for fun, but that's when I'm not writing.
So writing is kind of consuming.
So I'm either writing, dancing, or recording a podcast.
I love that. Super creative. The creative life. I love that.
Or brainstorming my illustrations for my children's book. I got an illustrator now, so.
How close are you to your book to being done? Your first book being done?
I hope probably somewhere, probably the book. I'm gonna publish it on Amazon and not publish it through like a big publishing house, because otherwise it would take like a year. But probably somewhere between May and July.
Okay, very exciting. So last question, because I know that you're almost at your time. What do you see in the future for, or what is your vision in the future for a more inclusive and equitable society for individuals with disabilities?
That's actually an oddly hard question because it's so multifaceted. Um, I guess a society where we don't. It's getting there. I mean, it was getting there. um, where it's like, we're not othered,
Yes.
and we're just a part of society, and it's never like a surprise when someone hires a disabled person, or I want to be like not surprised when someone gets cast in like a TV show and actually has a disability that they're playing. Or I want to be surprised when not surprised when I see another wheelchair user on Broadway. Or like, you know what I mean? I
Yes.
don't want to be surprised anymore.
It shouldn't be shocking.
Yeah. Or even seeing a wheelchair user or a person with a disability on a red carpet. Apparently, I didn't realize this until recently, a lot of red carpets and award shows themselves are completely inaccessible. And actually, that's why even people that are, um, have a disability, but maybe in a show or in a movie or something, don't typically go to those award shows because they're not fully accessible.
I didn't know that. So we do have a long way to go, but we have there has definitely been gains. But I hear you, and um, I agree. Like I can't wait for inclusion to not be a thing, right? Like that there's no need for DEI and inclusive initiatives because we just live in a society where people are included.
Yeah.
And well represented. All people are represented, in Hollywood, in the media, in businesses. So no, that's great. That was a great answer. Well, Olivia, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about just your education journey and your professional journey. I do want to link your podcast in so people can listen to some of the conversations that you've had with your other guests. So we'll include that in the transcript and the information included in the show notes. So,
Okay.
But thank you again so much.
Sounds good.
Thank you for joining us on Talking Inclusivity with the Hive. We hope the stories shared inspire and empower you. Remember, every voice matters and every action can make a difference. If you haven't gotten the chance to listen to the About Us episode, a link will be provided in the show notes. Learn more about the Hive's journey for inclusive housing in Tampa. If what you hear resonates within you, join the movement. Hit subscribe and join our tribe. Let's continue to build a world where inclusion is the norm.